Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
Well, this is once again a new video background for you. This one's in real life, not in space. I'm okay. I'm actually doing surprisingly well. I just realized today how much I'm traveling in the next 2 months and panicked, but other than that, like I'm settling in. I've now been in New Orleans for a week as of like an hour ago. Um, so solid week. I've been cooking, I've been eating at home, I've been working nonstop. I thought I was going to take a break. I did not. I did not, it seems. But that's good. It means I'm gonna have some money coming in, which will be nice.
Yeah,
My business is going. I've got tons of emails with festivals. I'm networking with gazillions of people.
love that.
Um, yeah, so I've literally had a meeting every day since I've been here. Like tomorrow, no, I don't even know. Wednesday, maybe I don't have a meeting. I don't know. But like I have meetings tomorrow too. So every day since I've been here, I've had a meeting, at least one, if not more, including the weekend. So I'm just doing it. But
Yeah.
I've been taking time to relax, taking some bubble baths when we had a very stressful situation this weekend with one of my clients and took a 2 hour bubble bath after because I can do things like that when I don't have a full-time job that's 9 to 5. I can
Which
work
is
at 2 p.m.
probably
if I want
why
to.
is that why when I texted you on Saturday that my life was falling apart, you said take a bubble bath and drink some tea?
That is 100% why, because that is exactly what I did. Like I literally spent that morning, it was like 4 or 5 hours of just stress. I was just like on the phone constantly trying to like work some stuff out. It ended up being totally fine. Everyone's fine. We're all chill. It's
Yeah.
not millions of dollars for anyone like we thought it might be. Um, and as soon as it stopped, I was like, I can't do anything else right now. I'm gonna go take a boba. And I ended up working till like 11 p.m. that night because I then worked later and did some other stuff. And like Friday, I went and got my nails done. And so then I worked after working hours because I did my nails at oh, I did
No,
my nails at like 10 a.m.
my nails got so bad last time that I decided I was gonna take them off, and I promised I wouldn't put new fake nails on until closer to my sister's wedding so that like I can
Hmm.
just give my nails some time to breathe and they like finally feel healthy. So
Nice.
I know, but
That
it
is good.
was a while. It was a journey.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yours is
I went
beautiful.
real hard sparkly pink. You can't see the sparkles very well until I get really close,
Ooh,
but they are like sparkly pink.
I love it.
So I'm better than I expected.
Good.
Honestly, I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. It's been officially 2 weeks since I've quit my like since I've stopped working at my job. So
Right.
I'm making it. But how are you?
Well, the incident that was happening, that is why Courtney told me I needed to take a bath and drink some tea, was because I decided I was dying. I have been like, I know I keep saying I'm like behind on everything, but then like every day happens and eight more things end up on my to-do list and I accomplish maybe five of them, but that means I'm still behind.
Mhm.
I'm just very, very overwhelmed with everything in my life right now, and my body is starting to react to that overwhelm. And so on Saturday, I woke up 100% convinced I was having gallstones,
Mhm.
which to be fair, I have a lot of digestive issues in general. That is my life. And my mom had her gallbladder removed when she was younger than I am. So, like, that's not unreasonable. But then by the end of the day, with all of my symptoms combined, and my mom basically telling me I was an idiot, but feeding into it in order to tell me I was an idiot. Um,
Sure.
Between me and Dan and my mom, I was convinced that I had gallstones, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, and fibromyalgia.
Great. Great. Great
Hmm.
combination.
And then I had to go to an overnight lock-in with my eighth graders while convinced that I was actually going to die.
Yeah. That's
I
always super fun.
don't think I've mentally recovered.
Well,
Yeah.
it's only been 2 days.
Well, so I don't know what the fuck we were doing when we were younger and we like pulled all-nighters all the time and then just like got on with our lives. Like,
Yeah.
what? I
I mean,
slept.
I even did this like even 2 years ago when I first started working at the bar. I would
Oh my
stay up
God.
until 4 or 5 a.m., go get a bagel, take an hour nap, and go to work. Like, I don't know.
So there was two of us who were there all night, and at like 1 o'clock, I was not going to make it anymore. And I was like, how about we take shifts? I'm going to go take a nap and like, I'll come back in like an hour and a half and like see how you're doing. And he was like, okay, totally fine. So I went down about 3 o'clock. And I went back to the kids and everything. And then I was like, all right. And I was talking to him and I was like, do you need to like take shifts? Like, do you want to take a nap? And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay up all night. He's 23.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
Okay.
a baby. He's a fresh baby, and
Sure.
he was fucked by the end of the day, or like the end of the morning the next day.
Right.
But he's 24, graduated college the year before he started teaching with me. I'm fucking old
Mhm.
and go to bed at 8 o'clock at night when I can. Um, so we spent another like hour with the kids being crazy, and then four of them never went to sleep, but they all at least like settled down into the classrooms that they were using as like their bedrooms and like were watching movies or playing video games and were like in a space where they weren't running around, they
Mhm.
weren't being crazy, they really didn't need supervision anymore. So I went back to sleep. But I slept for a total of 4 hours,
hmm
and all four of those hours were on the floor. I was sleeping in the I slept in the school counselor's classroom in her comfort corner. And this morning she was like, how was it? And I was like, fuck your corner. There's no comfort in it. And she
There's
goes,
no
yeah, no.
comfort.
No, she goes, absolutely not. So I already thought I had fibromyalgia and arthritis, and then I slept for 4 hours on a concrete floor.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Um, so so then when I got home, I slept, ate mashed potatoes in bed, um, tried to sleep some more, it didn't work. Edited the podcast, tried to sleep some more, couldn't. Went to work, not really sure I was a functioning human being for an hour of work. Got home at 10 and was in bed by 11:30.
Oh,
And
excellent.
but then this morning I had state testing and field trip prep. So like I didn't stop moving for the
hmm
entire day. Like at one point I like looked at my kids, I go, is it warm in this classroom? They were like, I mean, your classroom's always warm, but it's not bad. I go, okay, I'm gonna pass out. And they were like, you did just walk up and down the stairs 8 times in the last 20 minutes. And I was like,
I will do it.
yeah. The shitty thing
Mhm.
was my watch was charging, so all those steps were for fucking nothing.
Didn't even count.
No.
That's the worst. I haven't even dug up my watch yet. I don't know where it is. I'm still unpacking. I don't really know.
So I'm like, I don't know. And then the rest of this week is completely ruined because I mean, not ruined. It's lovely. Bree and the babies will be here, and we're doing stuff for Gabby's wedding, and so all of it will be emotionally fulfilling. It will just all also push my to-do list even farther away from complete, and I will be more
Correct.
overwhelmed.
hmm
Yeah. So I'm just like here. But
I hear that sometimes.
one thing that could make today just a little better.
What might that be?
I think that might be some spiritual guidance. And I saw you reach for your phone like, holy shit, I
I
don't have
tried to
anything.
swipe.
I don't have this prepared yet.
No, I was prepared. I just was that was my I'm ready. And so I just had to like open it and figure out which one I was gonna pick from my album that I keep. So I've got like eight. I'm fine. Don't
Great.
worry. So for this one, this is for both of us. Um, to the girl I don't know that I do know. You spent your whole life in that cage. You can break out whenever you want. You don't need permission and you don't need a key. You just have to know that you don't belong there. You never did. Stephanie Bennett Henry.
I love that.
Me too, because I have broken out of my cage and
Doing just fine.
I am doing just fine. Thank you for that. I did not hear it until you said it. So Yeah. Um, I am not going to sleep or taking a drag though, so
That's
that's
good.
fine. But I have
That's
some
good.
nice iced tea.
Um, I have Dr. Pepper, aka water. I don't drink anything else. Dan was like, over the weekend, he was like, I know you're not okay because you just voluntarily picked up a water bottle 3 times in a row for drinks. And I go,
You were like, that's the only thing that's gonna cure me now is drinking water.
I was like, I don't think Dr. Pepper helps with gallstones.
And my second cup.
He was like, yeah, but you could drink water all the time and maybe you wouldn't feel like you have gallstones. And I was like, maybe you should shut the fuck up.
I did have 1 cup of water today. I've had 2 cups of coffee, 1 cup of water, and now my tumbler of tea. So,
I've had 1 cup of coffee, 1 bottle of Dr. Pepper, half a bottle of Mountain Dew, and maybe 4 sips of water.
well, that's a step.
Well, today we're watching Stargate SG-1, Season 5, Episode 17, Fail Safe. It was rated 7.7 stars and came out on Friday, April 5th, 2002. The same song, J-Lo, Ain't It Funny, whatever, and the same movie, Panic Room, still #1. The top book, I have a story about.
Oh my God. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
So
Hit
the
me.
top book was Everything's Eventual by Stephen King.
Oh, I haven't read that one. I've read like 2 Stephen King books. I don't know what I'm saying.
It is a collection of short stories.
Oh, I love
And
that.
my grandma really loved reading Stephen King books. So when we were living with her in North Carolina over the summers, I decided I was going to try to read a Stephen King book, but like I knew they were scary. So I was like, well, maybe if I
Mhm.
start with the short stories, like
Or
it'll be,
worse.
yeah, tell that to 12-year-old me. I was like, maybe if I start with the short stories, I'll like work my way up to it. So I started with Everything's Eventual and I read the first 3 stories. And in the third story, I don't remember the plot. I don't remember the title. I don't remember anything except for that there was a man who had a fish coming out of his mouth and his eyes were made of flames. And there may have been a body in the trunk of a car. And I have never picked up a Stephen King book since.
I will tell you. I have not read any Stephen King short stories. I've just added this to my list because I do want to read them, but I have only ever heard that his short stories are 10 times as scary as his actual books.
It's honestly the most terrifying. Like to this day, I was 12, so that was 20 years ago that I tried to read this book. And I still have not gotten there yet. Like it fucked me up. But it
Hmm.
was the #1 book this day
Great,
because
excellent. Well, I've
because
added it to my
apparently
list.
because apparently other people can handle Stephen King. I can't. One of my
Yeah.
students is currently reading a Stephen King book, and she wants it to be the books that we read for our book club that we're starting. Because starting a book club when you have 45 days left of school makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense, but like it's fine.
Sure
That's what we're
does.
doing. She wants us to read a Stephen King book. Um,
Which one?
I don't remember. She said this one's not
Hmm.
that scary, but like again, I haven't touched a book since Everything's Eventual 20 years ago, so I don't know. But she also said she hates Stephen King because she found out his name's not Stefan, and that was really upsetting to her because it's spelled with a PH, and she just thinks that's bullshit. She's 11.
Well, don't introduce her to Stephen Moffat then, or,
Stephen
any of
Fry.
the Stephen Fry. Yeah, none of them. No one British. Um, that is upsetting for her, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. If you remember the book, you should text me and I'll tell you if I know anything about it.
It's
I'll
a
give you a
newer one, I think.
fairy tale. Is it fairy tale? I've
I
not
don't
read
know.
that one, but that one's only half written by him. A lot of the newer ones are not really Stephen King, they're ghostwriters. So they probably are less scary.
Probably. That's probably what it is.
Mhm.
But yeah, so um the other thing about this day is that I couldn't really find any news because when you Google April 5th, 2002, there is absolutely nothing. except for 87,000 articles about Lane Staley.
About who?
Lane Staley, who was the lead singer of Alice in Chains. He died of an overdose on April 5th, 2002. The thing that was made it more fucked up, I mean, obviously it was an accidental overdose, basically committed, like they don't know if he tried to commit suicide or not, but rock music, really upsetting. The problem was that April 5th is also the day that Kurt Cobain died. So this was the 8-year anniversary of Kurt
What? So
Cobain's
it
death. So
literally
like
could be either way. Yeah.
right. So like this was the 8-year anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death, and then Lane Staley of Alice in Chains died this day. And so like it is like a really like people who take that kind of music like
Yeah.
seriously take that day seriously. So like when you Google it,
That's
there's
all it is.
nothing on the internet except for that. So I was like,
That makes sense.
I mean, it totally makes sense. And like obviously, like if I had time to dig into all the conspiracy theories and like really dig into the details of these men's lives, I'm sure it would be fascinating. But I was like, can someone just one day of the year 2002, will there be an uplifting news article? Just once?
No, 0%.
0%.
Yeah,
I
I've
have
done like
that.
a third of the deep dive into like Kurt Cobain's death, and it is absolutely wild. Like it's
I
wild.
one time my mom I thought she was really gonna kick me out of the house. And by that I mean send me to live in a mental institution.
So
Because
commit you, not kick you out.
yeah, that one. Because because I was watching Twin Peaks and there is this, I don't want to give like details, but there is a rather vocally violent rape scene. Like the screaming in it is pretty intense. And I fell asleep watching it. And every night when I would fall asleep trying to watch the show, I would wake up at that scene because I wouldn't even be on that episode. I would be like two
No.
episodes ahead, but then I'd fall asleep. But then those screams would wake me up, and I was starting to have fucking panic attacks in the middle of the night. So mom was like, "I really need you to not." She's like, "I don't care that you're watching Twin Peaks. You can watch it. You can't watch it before you go to bed. You're having nightmares." I was like, "Okay, fine. I won't watch it." And then I woke up in cold sweats again. And she goes, "I thought I told you you couldn't watch Twin Peaks." And I was like, "I wasn't. I was watching a documentary about whether Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain or not." And she goes, "And that's fucking better." And I go, "I see your point. I do. Um, I think you got me on that one."
Yeah.
So then I decided I'd start watching Disney.
Burgers.
I would just start watching Disney
Mm-hmm.
movies to fall asleep because
Yeah,
that's a little bit more comforting.
very much so. Very much. I will say I've had some weird dreams falling asleep to Alice in Wonderland, but and
Yeah,
it's one of my go-tos.
yeah,
So
but probably not the same kind of weird dreams you have
no,
about
no,
Courtney Love and Kurt
no,
Cobain.
for sure, for sure, for sure, not the same.
Yeah. So this episode was directed by Andy Makita, written by Joseph Mallozzi and Paul Mullian, edited by Adam Lee, or not Adam, Alan Lee. So
Makita, is that a recent one?
he is someone that we see every once in a while. We've definitely seen him before. I don't remember when the last episode we saw him was, but he is not new. What is the last episode Andy Makita directed before this? Yeah, he's part of the team that does this show a lot. I just don't remember which episodes. And I'm basically just rambling
That's
to
okay.
buy myself time as I scroll his
Sure, you're
IMDb.
killing it.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
I thought I
He
like vaguely recognized his name, but I felt like I wasn't sure if I heard it recently or not.
Oh, you did hear it recently, because he did Proving Ground. That's when he was in this season. Yeah, so we
Okay.
did just he's done a couple episodes so far, but yeah, the last episode he did was the one with the SG trial team.
Got it, got it, got it.
The the guest star, um there's not really a guest star. If you really look at this episode, there is not a guest star at all. There is very little time that it is not our core four on the screen. The highest credited person that is not one of the 8 characters that we already know on the show is the engineer who came to help Sam and didn't want to go
Mhm.
through the Stargate. And his name is David Bloom. He is known for Okja. I think that's how you say it. That one
Can
weird
you spell
movie,
it?
OKJA, with the pig as the cover, like that one, like the best foreign film in 2017.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm-mm. Nope. Nope. This means nothing to me.
Okay. I've seen the poster about 1,000 billion times.
Hmm.
I've never seen it. Shooter and Stargate. Unfortunately, though, like there are apparently 8 other David Blooms in the entertainment industry, and so when I Googled him, not one of the things that came up was him.
That makes sense. I was like, that name sounds familiar. Not because of Vivid
Yeah,
Seems, so.
no, there's a much younger and more current actor who is doing things right now named David Bloom, who is more popular. And there was also a
Mhm.
journalist who died in the early 2000s named David Bloom. And those two did take over any ability for me to find this David Bloom on the internet.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Sure.
unfortunately, that is the entire information that I have.
You know, and
Um,
that's
I
okay.
I almost just started reading you the notes instead of, or, like the trivia instead of the notes for the episode.
We're
Um,
not there yet.
we're not there yet. Um, this episode, how do you feel about it?
Um, I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I had a lot of moments that I was like, these were really well done emotionally, but then there were other moments that I was like, I have no idea why we're doing this. So like I had a lot of really highs and really lows. More lows, I think, but I did have some really highs that I feel like I haven't had so much lately.
Yeah,
Um,
and when we get to the trivia, I have some interesting things that I might think might
clear that
explain
up.
that.
Hmm.
Um, But I think the acting in this episode was fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
I
really well done.
don't I don't know that the episode was great. I think it
Hmm.
was interesting thought. I don't know that it was done well, but the acting, particularly from our like tertiary team, like
Yeah.
Hammond, Fraser, and
Hmm.
Harriman, like or I guess they're the secondary team, not the tertiary team, but like from our
Yeah.
secondary team, they that was some of the best acting
Yeah.
in a
That's where a lot
very
of my
long
emotional
time.
times came from.
Yeah. I didn't know that Walter Harriman could make me feel things like at all. But
Yeah. And some of the visuals were really good, and some of the visuals were very interesting, and I want to talk about them. But those were,
yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
very much felt like a 2000s space adventure
hmm,
though. Like there was some of the
hmm,
things that I found
for sure.
odd were very much like a okay, but space in 2000, like that makes sense.
Right.
So we start this episode with a guy using a telescope and he's looking up at an object and he's like yelling on the phone that no one is listening to him and he's being ignored and he won't stop talking about this thing in the sky until somebody listens to him. And then the military shows up and he's just like, never mind.
Hmm. Yep, yep, yep.
And
Good
I just wonder
times.
how many times a day people are paid off like that.
Ugh, I want to be one of those people so bad. Like, sure, I won't tell a soul. I mean, I'd probably tell you, but like, I wouldn't tell anyone I told you.
Yeah.
Um, but like, please let me discover something that someone can just pay me millions to not talk about. Ugh, that is the dream.
Yeah. I have a really big mouth though.
And then
But
I
like,
wouldn't tell you.
no, I mean, I would tell Dan. I'd have to tell Dan, but like,
Mm. That's getting a little bit too
I,
far out there. You
I
probably
mean,
don't get to know.
to be fair, Dan would never tell anyone else because I'm
Right,
literally
sure.
the only person he would tell. Um, Speaking of,
Sure.
I saw a TikTok video that was like, ask your boyfriend if he would cheat on you for $1 billion. And then it was like this girl getting like really up in arms about the idea of her boyfriend cheating on her. And then the other girl in the video
Look.
goes, listen.
Hmm.
So So I asked Dan, and you know Dan, sweet baby golden retriever puppy Dan. I go, Dan, would you cheat on me for $1 billion? And he like gasped a little, like he was taken aback for a second. And then he just looked at me. And then he looked at me and he goes, and you're fully aware this is happening and I have your consent. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, then what the fuck would be wrong with me if I did it? And I was like,
Yeah,
thank you. He was like, I love you. I honor you. Do you know how much I could take care of you with $1 million? And I was
right. So many trips, no many jobs. Like, perfect. Perfect.
so many trips, no many jobs. Yes. Um,
This
so
is what happens
then
when I quit my job.
then we go back to SG-1 where Sam is telling us all about this thing, asteroid in the sky. Um, and it is 137-kilometer across asteroid. I don't
I
know if you know how fucking big that is.
I don't. I'm really bad at measurements. I don't care if they're metric, if they're, in feet, and I don't really care. I'm bad at all of them. Big.
Um,
It feels big.
it is. This is my favorite measurement. It's how many Danny DeVito's tall am I? Um,
I know a 3K is like not quite 3 miles.
yeah.
That's my measurement system.
Um, yeah, it is. No. What? Measure your height in Skittles or Danny DeVito's.
Ooh, Skittles?
Yeah. How many tall? Okay. What? Oh no, this website doesn't work. That's
Hmm.
rude. I hate when there's,
A fun site and then it doesn't be fun anymore.
yeah, because
It's a real bummer. Like
it's
Ask
like,
Jeeves.
or Sporkle or Stumble Upon.
Yeah.
Did you
Oh my God, I forgot. I
stumble?
loved Stumble Upon. They even had an app for a minute. That was fun.
They
I think
did.
that's the one that,
I can't. Um, I used to have this thing that I used in Thailand because it helped me with my like explaining height of buildings to my kids and I would like tell them how many toilets tall something was. Um, but now I can't find it. But basically, Danny DeVito is 1.52 meters,
Mhm.
which means that just say what he's 1.5 meters. That means that a kilometer is 1,000 meters, which means that 137 um, kilometers
Wow, that is
would.
a lot of Danny
It's
DeVito's.
a lot of Danny DeVito's.
Hmm.
Um, here's one. Why don't I use one that actually makes fucking sense though? Let's see. How tall is the Empire State Building? Um, Empire State Building is including the tippy tippy antenna, only 440 meters tall. So
Mm,
that's like half a kilometer. So this
yeah,
is like 275 Empire State Buildings across.
that's too many.
Too many.
Hmm.
And it's on an irregular path, and that doesn't make any sense. And it's coming straight for the Earth.
Yeah, there's like gravities and like I don't understand how it's on in a regular path. Like,
Who
I mean,
knows?
I do understand that it's not a natural phenomenon at this point, but
Yeah.
you know, still,
Um,
which should have been clear key for the Asgards. It's fine.
um, it's going to hit the Earth in 11 days and 16 hours if they don't stop it.
Hmm.
And it will destroy all life on Earth.
What a way.
Uh,
What a way to go.
yeah. The Tok'ra are still on the run. Um, the Tolan are dead.
Do we
Uh,
know how far removed this episode is from the Tok'ra episode? Like from the last one? Like, has it
oh,
been a
like
week and they're still on the run, or is it 4 years and they're still on the run? Like, how?
no, it's within a few weeks at the
Okay,
most. Yeah, yeah, it's within a few weeks at the most. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm still looking up this size comparisons of things. I'm like really fucking stupid. I don't know why I didn't do this before. Um, just yeah, so yeah, this is only a few weeks after the Tok'ra are on the run. So they're like not settled um at all.
great. Excellent.
Also, um that asteroid, if it landed right in the middle, like right here, it is a third of the length of New York State.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah. So not a good thing. Um, yeah, so the Tolan are all dead. The Tok'ra are still on the run. The Asgard aren't going to do anything because of the treaty. And so they're like trying to like find an ally that will help them. And so
Yeah.
then we get the credits. And we're just like, great. So 11 days till the end of existence.
The
Love
end of
that.
the world. That's great. Excellent.
Um,
Excellent.
so then, as they are wont to do, Jack goes to see Freyr. If you remember, Freyr is the leader of the Asgard High Council that is in this part of the
Mhm.
universe right now, since Thor is off in another galaxy fighting the replicators. And Freyr is basically like, yes, this is all very sad. This is tragic. It's awful. We hate it. Fuck off.
Yeah, no, literally. Literally.
And he's like, we have a treaty. We have to follow it. And they're like, the Goa'uld sent a bomb through the iris. And he goes, they didn't, though. The Tolan did. Jack was about to lose his mind. And then
Yeah.
it turns out we didn't see it, but Jack did lose his mind and
Hmm.
apparently said some inappropriate things about Freyr's mother,
Sure. Yeah. And I would
which,
imagine that goes about as well as it would in the human race.
yeah, no, Teal'c found it amusing, but he might be the only one. Um,
Yeah.
so they decided their best option is to nuke the asteroid themselves.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but apparently we don't have anything on planet Earth with a delivery system that can do that. And I'm slightly confused.
Skeptical.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they just meant they didn't have anything that they could do quick enough,
Yeah.
or big enough, but also like the thing is fucking like 200 Empire State Buildings long. How could you miss it?
Right. Right. There was a lot of things in this episode that I was like, that feels like you very conveniently decided that was the answer when it doesn't necessarily have to be or make sense that it's the answer.
Yeah.
Like, so this was one of
Um,
those things. And then the um Asgard's refusing to help also felt very convenient for this episode because like I understand
that
there's a treaty, but like this isn't quite this like this doesn't really feel like it falls under the treaty like it's
well,
supposed to.
but part of the treaty is that they can't help a planet from natural disaster. Like they couldn't.
Right. But like you know this isn't a natural disaster. Like you say you don't, but if you know that it's not, you're smarter than us. And I would figure this out, I feel like. That like it's on an irregular
Yeah,
path.
but even
You
Sam
can figure
didn't
out where it
figure it.
came from.
Even Sam didn't figure out until she was on it.
Right, but the Asgards are smarter than us. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, but
sure,
they're also very hands off. They're not paying attention.
well, maybe pay more attention. Pay more attention. That's
Um,
all.
So they decide that they're going to go back to Ravana, find the crashed ship, and fly it, fix it, fly it back to Earth, and use it to deliver the nuke. Um, that feels
Feels very
very,
risky.
very risky. And then they're
Mhm.
like, how long do you think that will take? And they're like, we'll probably have about like an hour to spare.
Again, very
Again,
risky.
very risky. Yeah. Um, Then we have the first of the most upsetting conversations that happen throughout the series of this episode, where Hammond reminds Jack that if this doesn't succeed, he has to go to the Alpha site with all the world leaders and important people and take command there because Hammond won't abandon the SGC. And so Jack will be the new commander because Hammond's going to go down with the ship.
I did not care for that. I understand it is correct, and I do appreciate Hammond's dedication and all of that, but it made me very sad. And I didn't think
Yeah.
this episode was gonna be the episode, but it still made me sad.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of emotional like occasionally
Mhm.
this show will be like, here's a really crazy sci-fi episode, but also we're gonna fuck you over emotionally.
That's exactly, yeah, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt this whole episode.
Um, so they take their bomb and some engineers and they go through the gate. They arrive at the ship and they get to work. We have an attempt at a funny scene where the engineer asks them where the bathroom is on the spaceship, which is supposed to, I didn't write this in my trivia because I thought it was dumb, but it's supposed to directly be like a comment on the fact that in sci-fi shows you're on all these fancy spaceships and no one ever fucking like tells you where the
Mhm.
bathroom is. But the reason I don't care for that as a trivia piece is because people in non-sci-fi shows also don't go to the bathroom. We don't watch people
Yeah.
go to the bathroom on TV, and when you do, it's like deliberately awkward and uncomfortable. Like
Yep.
we don't the same way you don't watch people actually eat food. Like they might eat a bite of food while they're like
Yeah.
doing something, but you don't watch
Yeah.
people eat. You don't watch them go to the bathroom. You don't watch them like drive their car unless they're having a conversation in the car. Like there are just things that are
Right.
not important on TV.
Because you know they happen. Like, unless they tell
Yeah,
you that they don't, like you just assume that
right.
they do.
Yeah, so that was like an attempt at being like self-aware and critical of the genre that I don't think succeeded.
Mm-mm,
Um,
no.
so then after a very long time in a montage of things that were really not great, except for the moment where Daniel was asleep on the bomb with his glasses askew, which was really adorable. Um, because like God forbid he
Mhm.
roll the wrong way and press a button and explode the bomb while
Sure.
he's taking a nap on it. But like
Fine. Yeah.
you do you, Daniel. Um,
As
and
always.
they finally fix the engines and they start it up. There's no recall device on board, so there is no which means there's no flyer, like there's no escape drone. There's the sarcophagus pods, but there's no like escape ship. So like
Yeah.
this is their one shot. Um they try the engine, it doesn't work at first, but then they try it again and it works and they shakily take off after sending the engineers back to Earth. Um And then, thank God, just like they don't show us people going to the bathroom, they don't show us the 10 days of SG-1 flying alone through the space
Right.
because it wouldn't be fucking necessary. Although it would be interesting to have like a web featurette that was like Jack's video diary during the insanity of being trapped with the three of
Ugh,
them for 10 days.
that's what we should
Um,
do a TikTok of. My brain is on TikTok lately. I'm trying to come up with all these new TikTok things to do.
but yeah, so then 10 days have passed. SG-1 has arrived back in Earth's orbit. They've dropped out of hyperspace and they're going to fly to the asteroid. Their plan is to fly to the asteroid, land, manually set the bomb inside a crater of the asteroid, uh, turn it on, and then leave. But also they have to be careful because they're about to pass through a comet belt. And they've lost their sublight engines.
Again, these are all things that they were just like, I'm gonna throw it all in there and see how it goes.
Oh, and don't worry, they've also lost connection to the SGC on the
Mhm.
radio.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Um, when their engines fail, they are aimed directly at the asteroid, and their thrusters aren't working. And according to the Deep Space Six telemetry that Major Davis is looking at on Earth, they're going to hit the asteroid way too fast to survive. They get to a crater that's deep enough to not crash, so they're fine. However, NASA's radar can't see that. They just see the trajectory of the ship hitting the trajectory of the asteroid. Um, and they believe that there are no survivors.
Like, I get that it's 2002, but it feels
You
like
have
maybe
to
you could see that. I don't know.
No, but you have to remember that A, 2002, B, the naquita in the asteroid would fuck with the sensors,
Sure.
which is why their radio wasn't working in the first place.
Yeah.
So and
But why is
the
your first thought no survivors? Like,
well, they believe he doesn't say none. He says there's very little chance that they survived. And even later in the episode when when General Hammond is talking to the president, he says there's no evidence of a crash. There's no shrapnel in the sky. There's no evidence of a crash, but there's also no way that they survived that. So like it's one of those things where it's the same as like someone who's missing in action. They're presumed dead until proven otherwise because it's harder to because when they're in a situation where the chances of survival are so small, you have to move on militarily to the next best option. You can be emotional and you can grieve and you can mourn and you can feel bad about it and you can hope that they're not. But like in terms of military strategy, you have to assume that they're dead so that you can move on to the next step and save as many other people as possible.
just feels fair. Like, I feel like Hammond's the only one who did it in a reasonable way.
Well, I don't blame Major Davis for this at all because his what he was saying he wasn't trying to be unsympathetic. He was just, this is my job, and I know that you're
Right.
closer to these people than I am, and I am telling you this is what we have to do, and I'm telling you that because you're not going to do it on your own because you're too emotionally invested to make that decision. This was the scene where I was like, holy shit, Walter, because while Major Davis is telling Hammond, and you're going back and forth between Major Davis being like devastated that he has to share this news and Hammond being like upset about it, they do a close up on Walter's face where he just does not know how to process what is happening.
These close-ups this episode, good timing.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Editing and acting just I'm torn between thinking the episode definitely deserves 7.7 stars, but then also being like, but that shot of Walter, that is a 9-star episode.
That one shot, those
That
3
one
seconds.
shot.
That was the one.
And so he tells Hammond that they have to call the president and go ahead with the next step. Meanwhile, SG-1 drops the bomb onto the surface, and Jack decides to make Sam sit out of going to set the bomb because she hit her head when they landed. And so she's a little woozy and dizzy. I almost missed the scene where she hit her head and then couldn't figure out why she was acting like a fucking idiot. And I was like, oh, that one was a little contrived.
Yeah.
Because they needed Sam to be the one on the ship to figure out that something was wrong with the ship. So they needed a reason for her to not go with Jack. Which is dumb because when they wrote out what their plan was, they had already planned for Jack and Teal'c to be the ones to go out there.
Again, Hmm.
So now we're back down to a 7. Damn it.
Right. Yep. And Rain
Um,
just brings us back down.
so Jack and Teal'c suit up and they follow the bomb. They go out to set it farther in the crater. Then we have the scene that I was just talking about where Hammond is on the phone with the president and he recommends not going public with what's happening. He said, if SG-1 somehow survived this
Encryption
crash,
function.
right? He said, if SG-1 somehow survived this crash and they're still able to fix it, there would have been no point to scare people for nothing. If they
Hmm.
didn't survive this crash, and this is going to hit the planet in a way that will kill literally every single person on the planet, there is no point in scaring people when they have 40 minutes left to live. Like that,
Exactly. Like,
like,
don't, yeah, no.
um, and then he also, yeah, even on the phone with the president, continues to refuse to go to the Alpha site. He is like, I will not leave my people.
Yeah. I mean, he knows what happened when Y2K hit and we didn't even die. And like, so could you imagine if they
Right.
gave this notice that the world was going to end again 2 years
Also, okay,
later?
I am really emotionally attached to these characters. And so I read into things that are very small that I don't know if they're actually there or if I'm just imagining that they're there. But when he was talking to the president and he was explaining that he can't leave and that people can't
Hmm.
know about this, the angle of the camera was done in a way that highlighted his wedding ring.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
And if you know anything about General Hammond, the thing that you know the most is that his granddaughters are the
Hmm.
most important thing in the world. So the idea that he is going to sit there in this bunker and die and never be able to tell his wife or his daughter or his granddaughters what is happening, like I have chills right now. Could cry just thinking about
I'm
it, and
gonna cry. Yeah.
I don't know if it was an
Ah,
intentional, but again, like I said, the acting and the camera work in this
the editing, my
episode,
God.
like I
Oh.
can't. But the way that they did the angle of
Hmm.
the camera, it was from the side that was holding the phone, and it was focused on the wedding ring and the phone, and I was like, I want to die right now.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Um,
Whatever they zoomed up on him and he was like, I have to stay here. I have to do this for the command. Like it was
yeah.
too much for me.
And then when they brought, we'll get there, but when they brought Janet in,
Mhm.
even though she wasn't in this episode, just to have
That
a
was the worst
moment,
part. That was the worst part emotionally for me. That was
yeah.
it.
So then back on the asteroid, Jack and Teal'c walk the bomb deeper into the asteroid and they set the timer for 2 hours. And while they're doing that, Sam determines that the asteroid core must be heavier than iron because its gravitational field is what made the thrusters wrong, and something that is the density of iron and nickel can't have a gravitational field as strong as it did. They are all of their calculations were based on what the gravitational field of iron at that size
Hmm.
mass would be, and this was wrong. So there was a denser metal in the iron or in the asteroid core than they were expecting. Um, but they start taking a meteor hit, and they haven't been able to get the shield up. But she tells Jack and Teal'c to wait in the cave so that they don't get hit by a meteor. But she then stops answering the radio. So Jack and Teal'c freak out and they finally get back to the ship. I do know that the scene where Daniel and Sam figure out that there's been a hull breach and are testing the airflow in the cabin, I didn't catch what the fuck had happened before they did that. And I was like, what is Daniel lighting on fire? I rewound that scene like twice. I was just watching it and I was like, oh no, no, they didn't say words. They just expected me to understand what that
Yeah, I
was.
just no,
Got it.
it didn't.
Um,
That didn't happen for me.
but Jack and Teal get there and figure out that the reason Sam and but get there and then they go to get in the ship and turns out that there was a hull breach, so they can't repressurize the cabin. So they go in with their suits still on, figure out that Sam and Daniel are currently hiding in the sarcophagus escape pods, because it's the only airtight space
Hmm.
left. Thank God there was two of them.
I know, true again, convenience. Can make sense.
Um, I mean, to be fair, we don't know if there's more than two.
That's true.
Um,
But still.
yeah. And actually, no, it does make sense that there's two of them because um each ship has one. And if you remember in the Ravana episode, Daniel escaped from the cargo ship and got picked up. So it would have been Hughes and Jacob's escape
Mm-hmm.
part sarcophagus. So actually, not as
That does make
contrived.
sense.
That actually isn't as
Yeah.
contrived as we thought it was. There is a factual plot backstory to that.
Excellent. I do love that. I do love that.
I take back my critique on that one. Um,
You got one.
they also identify the hull breaches via the computers because they can take the time to do that with the suits on, and they begin their repairs. Then we get the worst scene in existence. Janet is getting ready to head off to the Alpha site with her group, and she goes to Hammond to question why his name is not on any of the manifest lists. And he says, I'm not changing my mind. I need to be here. And she was like, you're the most qualified person to like lead the group over there. And he was like, nope. And then she just has a moment where she's like, I hate everything about this, but I understand. But she doesn't say words. It's just all in her
Right.
face and her
It's
eyes.
all in
And
the face. Yeah.
and then they say goodbye, and it is awful. um for a bunch of people who don't visibly show emotions, they have showed every emotion. Um So then back on the planet, or asteroid or whatever the fuck it is, they fix the ship, and let Sam and Daniel out of their sarcophagi. And they're like, okay, we have to leave. And Sam's like, I can't leave until I figure out what the core of this asteroid is. Like, none of this makes sense. The thrusters aren't going to work. I don't know how to get us out of this gravity because I don't know what the density of this planet is to know
Mhm.
what to do to do that. And they discover that the core of the planet is actually Naquadah. And
Mhm.
turns out this isn't actually a natural disaster. This is not a naturally occurring asteroid. This was deliberately put on the path of the Earth to look like a natural disaster,
Mhm.
to attempt to circumvent the treaty.
Heathens.
So, Jack and Teal'c go to turn off the bomb because if a Naquadah bomb sets off more Naquadah, we're not looking at a great time here.
Mm-mm-mm.
Um, and Sam repairs the radio while they're doing that. And they get the radio repaired, but the solid Naquadah is interfering with the radio waves, so they can only do short range radio within the asteroid crater. They can't contact Earth and let them know that they're still alive or what is happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Also, during the meteor storm, apparently a meteor hit the bomb and now it won't deactivate via the deactivation code. So they have to open it and deactivate it manually.
Another unnecessary throw in. There's just so many like little like trip ups, and I'm like, I don't feel like you needed that many. Like, we
Yeah.
already think the world's gonna end. We think Hammond's about to die. Like, there are a lot of
Yeah.
trip ups that are already happening.
Right. This one bothered me for a very different reason.
Was it the colors of the wires would never all be the exact same? Because that bothered me.
I mean, that did bother me, but you have never seen MacGyver.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So what you don't know is that what MacGyver's job was in the military was as a bomb expert. So the idea of Richard Dean Anderson looking at that bomb and not knowing what to do to turn it off just didn't sit right with me. And
Also, like,
I think that was like intentional. I think that was the like a
mhm,
moment of like haha behind the scenes
like an Easter
humor,
egg.
like an Easter egg humor thing. But I was like, you're telling me MacGyver won't know what wire to cut?
Yeah. But also, like, MacGyver aside, no person in their right mind is going to cut 4 of 5 wires correctly. That is a very, very slim probability you're going to get the right ones.
That's that was the only thing that was remotely MacGyverish about the scene was that he managed to cut
Right.
4 of the 5 wires, and the only one he didn't cut was the one that
Right.
would fuck everything up.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you take apart the MacGyver, you put any other person there, you put Jack without MacGyver, like, there's not a chance in hell.
No, everything was
Not
stupid.
one.
Everything was
Yeah.
stupid. Uh, she's like, you have to cut the red one. He's like, bitch, they're all yellow. And
Never.
Sam and Daniel just
Never
look at
have I
each
heard
other
that.
and they're like, who the fuck made this bomb?
Yeah.
Um, so they have to Russian roulette it. As if this episode
Sure.
wasn't already
Sure.
stressful enough. There's
Yeah.
37 seconds left before this bomb detonates and kills every single person on Earth,
Mhm.
and now we're gonna Russian roulette the wires.
Yeah. With a
Um,
bomb that doesn't make sense to exist because I've never, ever, ever in my whole life heard of a bomb that has 5 wires of the same color.
yeah. There's other
Never.
reasons why that bomb doesn't make sense to exist, but we'll come to that when we talk about the trivia.
Great.
Um,
Excellent. Can't wait.
so then he gets it. But the asteroid is 20 seconds away from failsafe. So Hammond orders Walter to join the Alpha team and leave the desk. And I died
I know.
in
I
my
know.
soul.
Every minute. Every minute.
Then SG-1 discusses their options for how to fix things. One, just give up and everybody dies, including
Everyone
them.
dies. Step 1, everyone dies. So,
Yeah. Option 2, take off, call the Asgard, and hope that somebody answers before everyone dies.
mhm. Sure.
Or
Also great.
yeah. Or step 3, expand the hyperdrive shields of the ship enough to carry the asteroid while they jump into hyperdrive to narrowly avoid hitting the planet.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No.
The only reasonable thing that was said in this entire episode was after they explained that plan, and Jack goes, so what's option 4?
Right.
Because,
Yes.
what?
That sounds like the craziest thing I've ever heard. And my only experience with hyperdrive is with Mission Space. So like I am not the most well versed in
Mission,
hyperdrive and
are you
whatnot.
talking Mission Space at Disney World?
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
not even hyperdrive, that's just
It's
G-force.
I thought they said hyperdrive when you're in the thing. They say we're going into hyperdrive.
If that's what they say or not, but that's not
That's
a
what they
real
say.
thing that exists
I
in
know, but that's what I'm saying. That's my only
but
experience.
Mission Space is supposed to all be like actual space stuff, so that wouldn't make sense.
Oh, well, I don't know. I thought that's what they said.
Oh.
Maybe it's when they go into hyperspeed. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe.
Do they say hyperspeed?
I mean, you go into hyperdrive on Star Tours.
Maybe that's the one then. Maybe that's the one. Anyways, that's my experience. So I understand I'm not experienced, but still feels a little out there.
Yeah. So they go with choice 3.
Honestly, at this point, just let the world burn. I don't even know. Like, just let it go.
And with literally 1 minute to avoid collision with the Earth, which means at this point, people have seen this asteroid. It's going to collide with Earth in 1 minute, and it's 200 Empire State Buildings big.
Someone's seen it.
They successfully jump into hyperdrive and pop back out on the other side of Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Why
not? But so they've saved Earth. The president and General Hammond discuss how everything is better and they've saved Earth, and they still think SG-1 is dead. They think maybe the Asgard took
fixed it.
Fixed it. They don't really know what's going on. And to be fair, SG-1 is about to die because they still don't have enough energy to successfully leave the gravitational field of the Naquadah. They still don't have anything that can boost their radio signal farther than the solid wall of Naquadah, and they have 2 hours of life support left.
But
no,
they're crazy people.
But because it's Stargate and it's just a random episode in the middle of a season and it's not important, obviously the Tok'ra show up and go, "Hey, so sorry, we
Little
just got your
late.
message. How can we help?"
11 days too late, Tok'ra. 11 days too late.
Yeah. So that was fail safe.
Yeah, it was something. My laptop's dying. I have to move.
I have a lot of trivia about this. And by a lot, I really only have five things, but I have five things that I have a lot of like things to say about. Um One thing that we did not mention while I was watching this episode, because I don't talk a lot about the individual dialogue unless it's like particularly heart-wrenching, is
Yeah.
that throughout the entire episode, Jack kept referencing a movie. He was like, "Oh, I've seen that movie." And then when we find out that the asteroid's going to kill everyone on Earth, and he goes, "Okay, that is not what happened in the movie." Um, the movie that he's referencing is 1998's Armageddon, starring Bruce Willis.
I have not seen that yet, but I am familiar with its existence.
First of all, Armageddon is a masterpiece
That's what I hear.
because,
That's what I hear.
and because it also has one of the scenes that makes me the most uncomfortable I've ever been. And that is a
Great.
scene where Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck make Sweet Sweet Love to I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith.
Oh, I'm familiar with that. You may have told me this before.
Yeah. Speaking of, Aerosmith is playing their farewell tour. Like they just announced dates for their farewell tour. And the final stop on the farewell tour is
It's Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Oh, when
The
is
tickets
it?
went the ticket February 26th. The tickets went on sale on Friday, and the pit seats are already on resale for $8,000.
Yeah,
The
that
cheapest
tracks.
ticket I can find, the cheapest ticket I could find on Friday, the day they went on sale, was over $1,000. I think that's one of the reasons why I was so sick this weekend is because I had a fucking breakdown about the fact that I'm never going to see Steven Tyler.
Fair. Maybe
Yeah,
somebody will get it for you for your wedding. It's not me. It will not be me, but maybe someone else will get it for
I
you
put
for
that
your
on my
wedding.
registry, Steven Tyler tickets.
Yeah. Just
Um,
put Steven Tyler on your registry and see what happens. See how that goes.
It'll be fine. It'll be great. Yeah. But yeah, so he's talking about Armageddon. The other thing is the reason I was so fascinated with the size of this asteroid, and I spent unnecessary amounts of this podcast
Mhm.
looking up comparisons, was because they said it's 137 kilometers across. The asteroid that killed all of the dinosaurs is recorded to have only been anywhere between 11 and 81 kilometers across.
Oh, that's
So
maybe at least we go fast then.
this asteroid was like double the size of the dinosaur asteroid.
At
Just
least,
in,
if not more.
yeah, it could have been like literally 13 times the size of the dinosaur asteroid. Um,
Confirmation, at least we know we wouldn't have survived it.
oh, absolutely not. 0% chance of survival. At least that's the one thing that they got right was that if this hit, there was no chance. It wasn't going to be one of those
That
things
is
where
true.
like, you know how sometimes you have those shows where they're like, "Oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever," and then it happens, but like something saves the day.
It's like it breaks a building and everything else
Yeah,
is
and they're
fine.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we had the measurements wrong." No, bitch, this was going to kill everyone.
Even if you had the measurements wrong.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Even if it wasn't 137, it was like 13.7, we're still all fucking dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Also, the bomb, Carter mentions that the bomb is a 1,200 megaton bomb, which is equal to 1 billion pounds of TNT. The most powerful nuclear bomb ever built in the history of not the United States, of the fucking planet. Because I don't think the United States was the ones who built this. was 50 megatons.
And this one was what?
1,200.
No.
Um, so once
Mm-mm.
again, we're just fucking making shit up in this show where we just say
Sure.
numbers to sound really important, but also if you logistically look at those numbers, that's
They're
asinine
insane.
and dead.
Hmm.
Like everyone is
Yeah.
dead.
Hmm.
I think that if you used a 1,200 megaton asteroid or like megaton bomb on an 137-kilometer across asteroid in the Milky Way, we're still dead. Like I don't think those numbers make sense.
They do not. They do not.
Um, Speaking of things that are also inconvenient, in terms of the time of how this all happened. So, fun fact, apparently, uh, in his blog, he said Rick and Chris, and I feel really uncomfortable calling them Rick and Chris, but so RDA and Christopher Judge hated the spacesuits with a burning
Okay.
passion.
But did you see them? Of course they hated them. They looked
Right.
insane. Like they looked like they
Sure.
just like pieched their bodies up. Like
Oh, I know. The
it
angle that
was
their arms were at, I was like, are those Ken dolls?
yeah.
Like, are those
I was like, did they
did
just put their faces on a different body? Like what happened?
no, so they didn't. They did actually wear those spacesuits and they hated it.
Oh yeah,
Very,
that
very
tracks.
much. To the point where they only wore it when it was necessary. But what Joseph Malozzi said in his blog was that the when it was necessary kind of became up for debate during the filming of the episode. And so after they fixed the holes in the hull and rescued Sam and Daniel, they no longer had their suits on, which means that when they fixed the holes in the hull, they also repressurized the cabin, which scientifically would add an additional half hour onto the time of what
Excellent.
they did. And Joseph was like, most people watching it probably wouldn't have even noticed that that happened, but we did. We noticed.
Mhm.
So, in a time where you only have 2 hours and you're on a time crunch, definitely take a half hour of that to repressurize it just so you don't have to wear the uncomfy suit anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the last piece of trivia, and I interestingly think that this trivia may lead to one of the reasons you dislike this episode.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so Also on his blog, Joseph Malozzi talked a lot about the fact that if you notice anytime that he or Paul Mully is a writer on the episode, they are always credited as a writing duo.
Mhm.
However, after their first season, they very, very rarely wrote as a team. They would do a lot of things where like one of them would write something and then send it to the other and they would edit it and revise it and bounce it back, but they never wrote together. And because of his promotion to producer, Paul Mully actually ended up doing a lot more uncredited script editing and supervising
Um,
for other writers. And so most things that are credited as Joseph Malozzi and Paul Mully were almost entirely written originally by Joseph Malozzi, except this one. This is the only one that is credited by the two of them that is entirely from beginning to end written by Paul Mully.
well, maybe it's a good thing he's a producer now and not a
And
writer.
I think that that's interesting because I think the stuff that they did at the beginning when they were first working on it and they were doing it together
Mhm.
is great. I think they have a great chemistry. I think them as writing partners, and even after Stargate and other things that they have done since then, like Travelers, they still wrote as a duo. When they had the freedom to bounce things off of each other and talk to each other, I think they were really, really great. And I think based on other episodes we've seen this season and in the previous season, I think Paul is a phenomenal script editor. I think in terms of
Yeah.
writing, like writing actual dialogue or plot or like words, he's great. I think that Joseph is a better ideas man. And I think
Yeah.
that that's what this episode
That
proves
makes
is that
sense.
this episode proves that while Paul, because the dialogue wasn't bad in this
Hmm.
episode,
Yeah.
the characters, what each character brought to the episode was great.
Hmm.
the plot was a lot more contrived than Stargate tends to be. And that's not saying it's never contrived. It's a 2000s space sci-fi
Right.
show with a TV budget. Contrived is its middle name. But this
Mhm.
episode just felt a little more Independence Day than like
Yeah.
sci-fi. And I do
100. That's a
think
great like description. Yes,
um
perfect.
which is really interesting because Independence Day was created by the same people who originally created the Stargate movie. Yeah, Roland Emmerich, who wrote the Stargate movie, who's credited with the
I
idea of
just
Stargate.
erased all of the
I
movie
know,
from my
I know, but
memory.
the original concept of Stargate was created by the same people who created Independence Day.
Hmm.
But yeah, but so I think that this, and I think that after I took the notes before I rewatched the episode, and this is not one of my favorites, so it's not one I've rewatched recently. And so when I rewatched it and I thought about the things that were good and the things that were bad about it, I think that if even if I hadn't known this stuff that Joseph said, I would have known that something was off about this compared to other Malosi and
Yeah.
Mully episodes. And I think that while I would love to see more of them writing independent of each other to see their strengths and weaknesses separate from this. But I think that based on that information and what we've seen so far, in terms of ideas, Malosi carries the team.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
I
I
love
told you
it.
I'd be able to explain why you didn't like it.
You did, and you were right. You were right.
Uh, we talk production on this fucking podcast.
Absolutely. That's who we are.
So, who do you want to punch?
I think I want to. I'm split between the Freya and the Tok'ra. One, because I still feel that Asgard should figure it out because they're smarter than us, even though
Yeah,
you say that maybe not. I still think they should. And the
fair.
Tok'ra because they didn't check their voicemail for 11 days, and that's a really long time when you know that the world is at risk. Like, come on.
I mean, to their credit, their entire species is at risk right now.
Sure. So even more reason because if we know something's coming to you, we're gonna tell you. So you need to pay attention to what's going on. I'm
True.
just saying, check your voicemails. I don't check my voicemails, but I'm also my planet's not at risk as far as I know. It doesn't rely on
And
me.
if it was, they wouldn't be calling you.
Exactly. So it's okay if I don't check my voicemails.
That's fair. I'm going to punch someone who probably doesn't deserve it and who I never mind, the next sentence I was about to say was gonna spoil things for you that I'm not prepared to spoil for. Um,
Great.
so so ignore everything I just said. Yeah, no, but this person probably doesn't deserve to be punched. It's just that I don't think they did anything in this episode
Mhm.
at all. Like not anything bad, but also not anything good.
Helpful. Yeah.
And that is Daniel.
Yeah. I mean, look, come on.
Um,
That's fair. He slept on a bomb. I mean, what are you
yeah,
like?
like if we took Daniel out of this episode, zero things changed about this episode.
Mhm.
Except for the one thing that was the really funny thing that happened like a couple times in the episode where Daniel was like, I feel really confident and or Jack was like, I feel really confident and or Daniel said, I feel really confident. Jack goes, me too. And Teal just goes, as do I. And clearly none of them felt confident.
Not for long. Yeah.
So other than the fact that things that happen in threes are funny, Daniel doesn't need to be in
Sure.
this episode at all.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to punch him, even though he really didn't do anything wrong. But also, no one else that was featured in this episode did either. So,
Right.
who is your MVP?
I'm also kind of split on this one, but I think for the emotional bandwidth, I'm gonna go with Hammond.
That is
Because my God, him. I mean, I've told you, what is the Shakespeare quote? Let me count the reason. Let me count the reasons.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So
I am also going to pick the person that made me feel the most emotionally invested in the show, and that is Walter Harriman. Because I don't really understand why he made me feel more emotions than anybody else in this episode, but he did. Um,
that's okay. That's okay.
so
I split with
yeah.
Sam because she was very active and did a lot of good things.
Sam did do a lot of good things, but I also think that Sam did a lot of dumb things because she did a lot of like or act first, think later
Yeah.
things. Which to be fair were because there wasn't a lot of time to think before acting, and I
Right.
get it.
Sure.
I get it. But
That's fair though.
I also don't want to condone it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So next week we will be visited by a fan favorite. And by fan I mean you.
What? Me? I'm
Or
the fan favorite? Is that what you're saying?
no. I mean your favorite. I'm saying my spoiler for next week's episode of Stargate is that a returning character is going to be a big part of it. And I said will be
Mhm.
visited by a fan favorite. And by
Mhm.
fans I mean you. Like this is a
Me.
character that
I see.
you will be very excited that they're coming back. Um,
Braytech.
yes.
That's all.
I can't it's Braytech. I mean, yeah. That doesn't
I've been
tell you
asking
anything.
for him for like 75 weeks now. So
Yeah, I was like, that
yeah.
doesn't tell you anything about the content of the episode, but we haven't seen Braytek since he beat the shit out of Teal'c to make him not want to be a Jaffa anymore.
Right.
So we're due for a Braytek
And that was what,
episode.
episode 1 of the season or something?
Yeah, it
Like,
was the first three. I think it was episode two
yeah.
was the one where he had the weird dreams for the whole time. So like, yeah, so it's been been a hot minute, and we're due for a Braytek episode. So yeah, we are having some technical difficulties, so I'm just going to end the podcast without Courtney. But if you have any thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns, feel free to email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow me on all the social media at EMKAY_superstar. You can also follow the podcast everywhere at Death and Aliens. I did that in the wrong order. And you can follow Courtney at CECloud13. And we will see you on Thursday for our first episode of our new horror series, Hannibal. And we will see you guys then. Bye.